it's Mike Magoo, Happy Hustler from the Reseller Dojo today. So I want to do a little quick take to talk about pivoting. So many of the videos on eBay are about BOLOs, what to sell, what you should sell, what you shouldn't sell. And, but part of eBay is that we don't all have like straight normal sources for our stuff. Some of it's kind of creative, some of it just happens. And so how do you pivot when you need to, when your sources dry up? And I'm kind of the poster child. So if you like this stuff, please like, subscribe, create some action with the algorithms, make a comment, anything. And, it goes around and around. It supports the channel. So stick with me. Let me explain to you something about pivoting. So, as you know, kind of from hearing me talk, I primarily do clothes. Well, not there, but clothing, clothing, clothing. Wait, let's run. I'm getting in shape. Clothing. So, you see, clothing was my main thing most of the time. However, when I started back up about 2 or 3 years ago after COVID on Long Island, the very first thing I sold, which was funny to people, it made the cute story, the eBay stigma, like, oh my God, you sell online, you must be a pauper. Anyway, maybe it's just me who thinks that way. But I started with hair color. I don't know. I was in Walmart and I was in the clearance aisle. I guess probably just killing time. I don't even go to Walmart very much. Maybe it was passing through. And there were all kinds of toys and games and weird things on sale. And all the hair colors were $1. And I know hair colors all go for between like sort of $6 and $12 or more. So I figured, let me grab them. I could lot a few of them up and sell them. And I did actually sell them all, even though the shipping gave me a little bit of a beating back then, lessons learned kind of thing. And now, after all this time on clothing and different pivots, I am back to, wouldn't you know it, little retail arbitrage. Although when I started with this, there was no word called retail arbitrage. That's a very sexy word for saying I buy clearance at Dollar General and sell it on eBay. But let me tell you one thing. First of all, comping changes everything. If you can comp, you can sell anything. Because we didn't have comping back in my time. There had to be some intuition. There had to be some sort of kind of grasp on what things were worth or what they would go for. If you were a collector, you probably knew just from your own classifieds and from your own sales, or you did yard sales or whatever. And so you had an idea where to be, but it wasn't like you couldn't just go on eBay or one of these sites and say, oh, this sold on this date, this many times for this much amount of money. That's a new way, and that's why it's created this sort of opportunity for so many more people. But so I started with hair color, and then from hair colors and all that junk, I was doing, I guess it's all retail arbitrage, because the second joking thing I started with was the turkey fryers. Right around the time of the hair colors, this was all Walmart clearance. So I got turkey fryers for $20 a piece. I sold them for 80 or so a piece out of my shed. I would meet people at the Home Depot parking lot. And then I said, let me start going back into clothes, because I went to the thrift store and I forgot how therapeutic thrifting is for me, how much I like it, and how much I enjoy it even more when I know I can go in with $20 and come out with 100. And I do. I know I can go into almost any thrift store in the country with a $20 bill and come out with $100 worth of stuff to sell on eBay. However, if I can't, it's the thrift store's fault. That means there's absolutely not a good thrift store. And that happens. And, so that's part of what happened here. I was deep into clothing already. In Florida, I had 2 great clothing sources, a women's battered shelter store, and I became friends with the manager, and they were the nicest people, and they had all the senior discounts that were from 55 and up, and they just, I got so much good stuff, but it was women's clothes. I didn't know women's clothes. Matt, Thrift Alive has his men's manifesto, the menswear manifesto. I bought it, but most of that stuff I knew instinctively, or it's like ritzy Pacific Northwest outerwear that you just don't find on the East Coast. You just don't, maybe some Patagonia or something like that here and there, but you don't find Arc'teryx very much or those things. So that's not something to worry about at the bins. You're not going to stumble across those jackpots very much, or those BOLOs. I find you have to create your own BOLOs, so to speak. And that's what pivoting is about. So when I was in Florida, I pivoted to women's clothes, even though I didn't know much about it. And I got to tell you this one, and I had the bins. For the first time, I had a Goodwill bins that was actually pretty clean and decent and easy to deal with. So I come out of the bins with 2 big bags, come out of the other shelter with 2 big bags. Every week, that's for a couple $100, I had a ton of items to list. But one of the issues there too is, as I mentioned, Matt again and others have said, clothing is tough to deal with. It's hard to de-lint, keep it neat, look for stains, look for buttons missing, defects, keep it sort of ironed or steamed, package it up nicely. They don't ship super cheaply, a blazer, especially dress clothes. Clothes can really take a beating on your back, photographing and prepping them and doing all that stuff. So, and they take up a lot of room, as you can see in my space now. So I don't mind pivoting away from clothing, but I didn't have any option. When I got up here, I went to the Salvation Army store. That's about the only one we had in town, and I did really well. I was like, wow, they have all this cool dollar stuff. I got a bunch of T-shirts, and I was like, cool, T-shirts are good, easy to photo, easy to ship. That's one of my positive parameters now: easy to carry, easy to photo, easy to ship. And so I was able to clean up. I went back a week later, and I guess you know how that happens with the thrift stores. Some new manager or somebody took over, and suddenly they changed everything, and everything was more expensive. And they didn't have much to begin with, so I was like, this is not going to be a source. This is a fun place to go hang out for 20 minutes and maybe find something just for fun or for the house, some curtains or something, but it's not going to be, this is not a honey hole for sourcing. So, weird things happened as I started to pivot. I went more to the auctions. I had already won an auction. It's funny, I won an auction on Long Island after I moved to Florida, and it was 5 minutes. It was literally not even 5 minutes. It was a minute from where I used to live. So here I was. I won the auction 2,000 miles away from where I used to live, which was a few months before, and I had to pay a bundle to get it shipped. But I got a lot of high-end rifle scopes, which I figured I would live off of for a while because I knew what they were worth, and it's the most I ever paid for anything. It was like $6,000. So here I am. I've moved from shampoos to clothing. Now I'm into rifle scopes. And from the auctions, I discovered when you bid on some of the higher endy things, there's always a lot of lower endy stuff that sometimes people bid on, sometimes they don't. They usually go pretty cheap, like CDs, DVDs. In this case, sometimes I just had a fun time because one of the key things I got was these Hot Rodder magazines, and even better, these, I don't know if they're here, but these these auto magazines, but there's Trucker Mags, Truck In Mag. And I remember Truckin' Magazine from the 70s. They're great. It has all those souped up vans and stuff, which is funny because those are all back again. They're coming back. It's funny how things come around. But these magazines are from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And I sell them like one at a time. And they always seem to sell to people out west, car aficionados, guys looking for ideas on how to, rebuild and soup up these things. This stuff had like the original parts you needed so you can find things. So it's pretty cool. And they sell, but for me, it's just something easy to pack, easy to photo, easy to ship, pads the store, keeps the algorithms going. So, hey, I moved on to that. And then just recently, the retail arbitrage you saw there is Dollar General, 75% off clearance. I went to my local store, found some stuff, and I could comp. So it's easy. I normally wouldn't sell makeups and cosmetics because I'm like, ugh, I don't know what that's going to go for or what I have to do. And all those lotions, like I know 2 of those lotions is over £1, so shipping's not cheap. But, some of it was just so bloody obvious. So here's an example. I'll show you right in the store. I paid $5.05 clearance. So 75% off of $5.05 makes it, what, $1.27, something like that, $1.26. Then I lot up 3 of them like that. And in less than a week, I sell the 3 of them for $58.99 plus $5 shipping. So that's a bolo to me, folks. It's so easy. It's so light. It won't even cost $5 to ship. So I'm willing to lose a few dollars on the shipping because I know I marked these up so much. $58.99. I mean, it's almost $20 a piece. I paid $1.25. So if I were a wholesaler buying these from my drugstore, they would cost me about $3 a piece or $4 a piece probably, and I'd have to sell them for 6 or 7. I don't know. So anyway, like I said, I'm not proud about that. That's a fantastic flip. I have to go photograph those blazers now. If I make a $30 or $40 on one of those blazers, I'll be shocked. But these makeups, I still have like 3 or 4 more sets of them. And like you saw those bins in there with lotions and all that, I sell 1 or 2 a day, which to me is just shocking. I sell 1 or 2 a day. And so anyway, I'll let you go after that. Just know pivoting can be fun. Oh, the last story, let me tell you about pivoting, how sometimes there's like these divine interventions happen. I was at a point where I said I would take any smaller stuff to pad the store. But I didn't have money to spend or even invest in stock. So I saw on Facebook Marketplace, someone was like having sort of a giveaway. It was like a yard sale, but giveaway. And I was like, all right, I'll be around. So I'll head over there. I was only 5 minutes away. And when I get there, it turns out nobody was really buying stuff. And it was what was left of the estate, basically the library and personal effects of a tenured music professor from a university. And he was a choral professor. He actually sang at the Met a couple times in New York. He tried out for the Met years ago. He was a beloved guy. And I guess basically they auctioned off the home and they auctioned off all this stuff and never really did anything or didn't know what to do with the library stuff or didn't try. And I guess he's not famous enough for it to be worth a lot. So they didn't want to see it just get tossed in the dumpster. They couldn't bring themselves to just get rid of it or even donate it. So I told them flat out, look, I'm kind of a reseller. And even though I'm a musician and I have reverence for this stuff, I'm going to sell it. And I said, but at least I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to try to put it back out there into the universe to musicians, and I have sold books. I sold a book just now on organ stuff to Australia. I've sold choral guides that were antique, torn up books to gospel preachers in the South. It's just amazing. It really has happened where this music gear and books have floated back out into the universe, which makes me feel great. And I'm making money on them. I got to tell you, sometimes I'm like, do I make a profit on that? And I'm like, dude, you didn't pay anything. It was free. And I'm like, oh, I've never gotten anything for free. I've always heard these people, even Matt, Thrift Life, oh, I got a bag of clothes for my neighbor. No one ever gave me a bag of clothes of anything. And if they do, they want me to sell it for them because I'm too stupid to just take it. I always say, why would you do that? It's worth some money. I'll sell it for you. Dummy. Why do I do that? I don't know. Never goes well. Just did it for a friend with books. He's giving them away for 50 cents a piece in a neighborhood where no one knows what they are going to buy them. And he tells me they're first editions. I'm like, dude, don't sell any first editions. Just don't. It's worth me doing 20 minutes of eBay research. If nothing, just so I learn more. And that's another pivot. I could always pivot to books. Books are everywhere. But they're hard to deal with. They're big. They're hard to ship. If I didn't get them for free, I wouldn't really do books much. But there's some guys out there, some women out there who make a hefty living on books, especially with Scout ID and with all of these, Jungle Scout or whatever, and these different apps and stuff too. They're scanning books with an earpiece in. It's telling them what the profit is and what the odds of selling. It's like, are you kidding me? How much more idiot-proof can you make it? But again, I have to be the bigger idiot because I don't live on BOLOs. I come from a time before comping. I come from a time before anyone knew what anything was really worth. And so now I have to be sort of meticulous in my choices and what I do. And I'm a hoe. I'll sell anything. I pivot to whatever I can pivot to. But it has to kind of hold my interest a little, or it has to be just a really lucrative thing, like hair color and makeup. Do I dig it? Is it cool? I don't know, but a $50 profit on something so easy to buy, ship, package, store. It's like, give me those all day long. I got to sell 6 t-shirts or 5 t-shirts maybe today to make that profit. So yeah, retail arbitrage can be fun. And now I know I'm going to be on the lookout for all of these clearance sales because that's all we have around here are these like Dollar Generals and Family Dollars and Dollar Trees. Like every town sort of has one. And, you can just drive right down the main street, for 50 miles in either direction and hit 10 stores. That's kind of what I did. And by the time I did the first couple of stores, I had already comped enough things to kind of have an idea what was good. And then in my mind, I've already got my BOLOs. So those makeups I found in the first store, and there were others, but they weren't marked for price. And you just have to accept the fact that if it's not marked, clearance, and it's just gonna be an argument at the counter. So don't even bother. So I had to leave a lot of money on the table there, which I didn't want to. But I knew that every other store, one of the first things I was looking for was look on the top racks and see if there's any of this makeup hanging out, because they're hanging it next to like party favors and stuff. So it doesn't look like where it's supposed to be. It doesn't look like what it is. But I'm like, one of these things is not party favors, and Lady Clairol or whatever, or CoverGirl makeup, is high-endy and not a party favor. So, like I said, $50 a pop for 3 of them is a hefty bolo in my eyes, and it just proves that pivoting is pivoting. You got to pivot. So today, I just listed some CDs, another rifle scope, and I'm going to start photographing clothes again. But clothes, it's funny how they seem like such a drag, but I'm going to try and do some of the higher indie ones, more the name brand ones, and see if I could generate some more flips. Than I really should have done that before back to school, and I didn't. Now I'm like, I really should do it before Christmas, and it's almost getting too late. So this is, it's a business. You got to treat it like a business, and pivoting is a major part of the business. Especially, I was a procurement guy, and supply chain issues are a deal. And if you can't source, you can't sell. You can't make a profit. So sometimes when I wasn't able to source, I actually just pulled 100 or 200 items I wasn't sure about in my store that either didn't have good pictures or that I just didn't like, and I just refreshed them. I took them back out of the poly bags, steamed them, rephotographed them, treated them as new, and then things start to sell again. You have to create constant action. You got to keep doing things, and I have some videos on that. So go look at my video on creating constant action and keeping the algorithms happy over there, wherever you look for these videos. And if you can, please, comment, like, subscribe, make fun of me. the beard, whatever. Tell me your stories. How have you pivoted in this business? Take care of each other. Peace.